For decades, two names towered over British acting like royalty: Judi Dench and Maggie Smith. Their connection wasn't flashy or loud, but it was real, deep, and quietly powerful. People whispered about their bond, admired it from afar, and even turned it into legend, yet neither woman ever felt the need to explain it out loud. Now, at 89, Judi Dench has finally broken that silence, not for drama, but out of loss, revealing how Maggie's passing left a space that simply cannot be filled. Some lives don't begin in spotlight, and Maggie Smith's story proves that loud fame isn't where greatness starts. Born Margaret Natalie Smith on December 28, 1934, in Ilford, Essex, she came from a grounded, middle-class household where discipline mattered and imagination quietly grew. Her father, Nathaniel Smith, worked as a pathologist, while her mother, Margaret Hutton, was a Scottish-born secretary who valued sharp thinking and independence. There was nothing glamorous about her early years, but there was structure, and that structure gave Maggie a steel spine. When war tensions spread across Europe, the Smith family made a life-changing move from Ilford to Oxford, escaping the constant threat of London bombings. That move wasn't just about safety. It shifted Maggie's future in a serious way. Oxford surrounded her with books, language, and performance culture, placing her close to theater spaces that sparked something fierce inside her. She didn't chase attention, but the pull toward words and performance was already locked in. At Oxford High School, Maggie wasn't the loud one in the room, but teachers felt her presence immediately. She watched everything, listened carefully, and absorbed details others missed. Shakespeare pulled her in hard, not as homework, but as fuel. She didn't demand the spotlight, yet when she spoke or performed, people leaned in. There was control there, not noise. By 16, she was done waiting. Maggie stepped away from formal schooling and joined the Oxford Playhouse, where she learned how theater actually worked from the ground up. This wasn't a hobby, it was training under pressure. At just 17, she stepped on stage as Viola in Twelfth Night, and from that moment on, it was clear this wasn't pretend anymore. Acting wasn't a dream, it was her lane. Her ambition pushed her to London and into the fiercely competitive Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. Getting in was no joke, but her audition had raw power, unpolished yet undeniable. At RADA, she mastered voice control, movement, and classical performance, building the tools that would carry her for decades. By the early 1950s, she was already grinding with the Oxford Playhouse Repertory Company, rotating roles at a brutal pace that sharpened her instincts fast. Comedy, tragedy, drama, she handled it all. Learning lines overnight and switching emotional gears became second nature. Even in her early 20s, it was obvious Maggie Smith wasn't passing through the industry, she was planting roots. By the late 1950s, Oxford couldn't hold her anymore. In 1959, she joined the legendary Old Vic, a place where talent either broke or exploded. There, she took on towering roles like Desdemona in Othello, Viola again in Twelfth Night, and Cleopatra in Antony and Cleopatra. Each role demanded precision, vulnerability, and authority, and Maggie delivered every time. Critics noticed fast. Audiences felt it too. Her style wasn't flashy, it was sharp, controlled, and cutting in the quietest way. That balance pulled her into the orbit of Laurence Olivier, the most powerful force in British theater at the time. He respected her talent, but respect didn't erase tension. Working under Olivier meant pressure, ego, and constant tests. Maggie didn't shrink, and that alone made waves. Their clash reached a breaking point during a 1964 performance of Othello, when Olivier crossed a line and struck her on stage, completely unscripted. Years later, she addressed the incident with dry wit on The Graham Norton Show, brushing it off with humor, but the truth behind it was heavy. That moment captured the reality of her early career. A young woman holding her ground in a space ruled by powerful men, refusing to fade or bend. Maggie Smith didn't just survive that world, she reshaped it, one controlled performance at a time. Despite the infamous clash, Maggie Smith didn't walk away from working with Laurence Olivier. Instead, she stayed right in the fire, continuing to perform under his leadership in productions like The Master Builder and Much Ado About Nothing. Their relationship stayed tense, unpredictable, and emotionally charged, but creatively, it sparked something dangerous and powerful. Olivier pushed limits, tested authority, and demanded dominance, while Maggie refused to fade into the background for anyone. That friction wasn't just uncomfortable. It forged her resilience and sharpened her instincts in ways comfort never could. When she emerged from her time at the National Theatre, she wasn't just another skilled performer waiting for approval. She walked out as a fully formed force, confident in her voice and unafraid to challenge anyone standing across from her on stage. That period hardened her, taught her how to stand tall in pressure, and prepared her for something much bigger that was already knocking. While she was dominating London stages, cinema had quietly taken notice. Her first major film moment came in 1958 with Nowhere to Go, a gritty crime drama where she played Bridget Howard. She was still young and far from famous, but her presence cut through the screen with precision and restraint. That performance earned her a BAFTA nomination, sending a clear message that her talent wasn't limited to footlights and curtains. The real shift came in 1963 with The VIPs, a glamorous production stacked with stars like Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. On paper, Maggie's role looked small next to names that big, but once the cameras rolled, she held her ground. Her timing was razor sharp, her emotional control flawless, and suddenly Hollywood executives were paying attention. Then came the role that rewrote everything. In the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, Maggie stepped into the skin of Jean Brodie, a fiercely confident Scottish schoolteacher who believed she was shaping young minds for greatness. The performance was layered, magnetic, and unsettling. Jean was witty, charming, inspiring, and deeply flawed all at once, and Maggie captured every contradiction with surgical precision. She moved effortlessly from warmth to arrogance, from idealism to manipulation, never softening the edges. Critics were stunned, audiences were hooked. In 1970, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress, a moment that launched her from respected British talent to international film icon overnight. Unlike many who chased Hollywood flash, Maggie stayed cautious. She didn't abandon the stage or lose herself in fame. She moved back and forth between theater and film, choosing roles carefully and keeping her roots intact. Still, cinema kept calling her name. In 1978, she delivered another unforgettable performance in California Suite, written by Neil Simon. Playing Diana Barry, an actress navigating professional disappointment and personal strain, Maggie blended biting humor with quiet heartbreak. The performance hit hard because it felt lived in, raw, and honest. That role earned her a second Academy Award, this time for Best Supporting Actress, proving her range was untouchable. Behind the applause and gold statues, her personal life carried heavy weight. In the 1960s, she married actor Robert Stevens, a brilliant but troubled performer. Their relationship began with promise and creative fire, but offstage things unraveled fast. Stevens struggled with addiction and emotional instability, and the marriage became strained by infidelity and chaos. During the filming of The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, Stevens reached a breaking point, a moment that exposed how fragile things had become. For Maggie, the emotional toll was relentless. The final blow came when she learned of his affair, not from him, but through someone else entirely. That betrayal cut deep. After 6 painful years of trying to hold things together, she filed for divorce in 1973. She was left to raise their 2 sons, Chris Larkin and Toby Stevens, largely on her own, while continuing to work at the highest level. Toby would later speak openly about growing up around instability, acknowledging both the difficulty and the strength it took to survive it. Through it all, Maggie Smith didn't crumble. She endured, adapted, and kept delivering performances that cut straight through the noise, proving that resilience wasn't just something she played on screen, it was who she was. Yet even while speaking honestly about the instability of his childhood, he has always credited his mother as the steady force that kept everything from falling apart. Maggie Smith was the constant, the anchor, the one who showed up no matter how heavy things became. After her divorce, fate quietly brought her back to someone who had loved her patiently for decades, playwright Beverly Cross. Their story wasn't rushed or flashy, it was unfinished business finally getting its moment. They first met back in the 1950s, and Cross had even proposed once before, but life pulled them in different directions. Timing wasn't on their side back then. By the mid-1970s, however, both were free, older, and clearer about what they wanted. This time, the connection held strong, and in 1975 they married, beginning a partnership built on respect, stability, and quiet devotion. For Maggie, Cross became a protective shield against the chaos of fame. He encouraged her work, supported her independence, and gave her a calm home life away from the industry noise. Their marriage lasted until his death in 1998, and that loss hit her hard. She later admitted she never remarried because no one could ever replace what they had. That chapter closed for good. Even as her personal life found balance, her health began throwing serious challenges her way. In the 1980s, Maggie was diagnosed with Graves' disease, an autoimmune condition affecting the thyroid and causing visible changes to her eyes. The public noticed, critics speculated, but she didn't slow down. She underwent radiotherapy and surgery, then went right back to work, refusing to let illness define her career. Then came another brutal blow. In 2007, while filming Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Maggie was diagnosed with breast cancer. Chemotherapy followed, exhausting and relentless, yet she stayed on set, delivering every line with the same sharp precision she always had. Later, she admitted the treatments left her knocked sideways, but quitting was never on the table. Acting wasn't just her job, it was her armor. It kept her grounded, focused, and moving forward when fear tried to creep in. By the early 2000s, Maggie Smith was already regarded as one of Britain's greatest living actresses, yet the most globally recognizable roles of her career were still ahead. In 2001, she stepped into the role of Professor Minerva McGonagall in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. For a whole new generation, she wasn't an Oscar winner. She was Hogwarts' sharp-eyed deputy headmistress. From her very first scene, Maggie owned the role. One look from her could silence a room, yet there was warmth and loyalty beneath that stern exterior. Across all 8 films released between 2001 and 2011, she became a symbol of courage, wisdom, and quiet strength. Millions of children around the world grew up watching her, never knowing she was enduring chemotherapy behind the scenes during part of that journey. Not long after the final Harry Potter film, Maggie stepped into another role that would shake pop culture. In 2010, Downton Abbey premiered, transporting viewers into the world of the Crawley family. As Violet Crawley, the Dowager Countess of Grantham, Maggie didn't just steal scenes, she dominated them. Her razor-sharp delivery, biting wit, and perfectly timed pauses turned every line into a moment. Whether she was questioning what is a weekend or dismantling rivals with a single sentence, Violet became the voice of the series. The show exploded across more than 100 countries, and Maggie's performance earned her 3 Primetime Emmy Awards, a Golden Globe, and 4 Screen Actors Guild Awards. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a second peak. Younger fans who met her through Harry Potter now rediscovered her brilliance in Downton Abbey, locking her legacy across generations and continents. And through it all stood Judi Dench, her lifelong friend, witness to every era, every rise, and every loss. Their bond wasn't loud or public, but it was deep and unbreakable. When Maggie was gone, Judi felt it instantly, not as history ending, but as something irreplaceable slipping away. Amid Maggie Smith's towering career, one quiet constant never wavered: her lifelong friendship with Judi Dench. Their story didn't begin in glamour, but in the trenches of British theatre during the 1950s at the Old Vic, where 2 young actresses shared cramped dressing rooms, fierce ambition, and the same hunger to be taken seriously. From the very start, there was competition, but there was also recognition. They couldn't have been more different in energy. Maggie's sharp wit and surgical sarcasm clashed beautifully with Judi's warmth and openness. Yet those contrasts didn't divide them, they bonded them tighter. Each saw in the other something rare, a seriousness about craft, a refusal to play small, and a loyalty that didn't need applause. Over the decades, their careers kept colliding in the best way. On film, they stood side by side in A Room with a View, Tea with Mussolini, Ladies in Lavender, and later, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. On stage, they reunited in David Hare's The Breath of Life between 2002 and 2003, where their shared history made every scene feel lived in and electric. Their chemistry wasn't forced, it was earned. Decades of trust, rivalry turned respect, and countless private conversations shaped every performance. That bond shone brightest in the 2018 documentary Nothing Like a Dame, where audiences finally saw the teasing, laughter, and deep affection they shared alongside Eileen Atkins and Joan Plowright. What came through wasn't ego, but sisterhood. To outsiders, rumors of rivalry never fully died. Both women were regularly nominated for the same awards and labeled titans of British acting, but they dismissed the idea every time. Judi once said plainly, "Maggie is one of my closest friends. I couldn't do half of what she does." Maggie, never missing a beat, joked that anyone who thought they were rivals had clearly never watched them laugh over tea together. That laughter was silenced in September 2024, when Maggie Smith passed away peacefully at the age of 89, surrounded by family. Her sons, Toby Stevens and Chris Larkin, released a statement honoring a mother and grandmother whose loss left their family devastated. For Judi Dench, the loss was not public, it was personal. Just days later, on October 5, 2024, Judi appeared at the Cheltenham Literature Festival, where she was asked about grief. She had once described grief as energy, something that pushes you forward. But this time, her voice broke mid-sentence. "I suppose, because the energy that's created by grief," she began, before tears took over. The room fell completely silent. Later, Judi revealed a private ritual that spoke volumes. At her home in Surrey, she keeps a small forest where she plants trees in memory of those she's lost. Among them are tributes to Alan Rickman, Helen McCrory, Natasha Richardson, and Stephen Sondheim. For Maggie, she planted a crabapple tree. On the day of Maggie's funeral, Judi's gardener brought her a single crabapple from that tree. Judi carried it in her pocket throughout the service. "It was a very nice thing to have," she said quietly. That small fruit, held close, was her way of keeping Maggie with her one last time. Their friendship lasted more than 6 decades. It survived fame, illness, loss, and changing eras. And in Judi's grief, the world didn't just witness the passing of a legendary actress, but the breaking of a bond that helped define British theatre and film itself. Maggie Smith gave audiences unforgettable performances, but perhaps her greatest role was the friend she became to Judi Dench. Now Judi carries that memory quietly, tenderly, in a forest grown from love and loss. What is your favorite Maggie Smith performance, and how will you remember her best? Share your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this.